Okay, so welcome to the presentation of chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. So, in other words, chapter 1 is also can be called the yoga of Arjuna's despondency. And why? Because Arjuna is going through very difficult emotions, and this is how Bhagavad Gita starts. Okay. So the purpose of the first chapter that we are reading now is to set the stage for the spiritual teachings of the Gita, to show how even a great warrior like Arjuna, with all of the skills, right? And he has a lot of skills, and he's one of the strongest person in the universe, and he has the most powerful knowledge, can be overwhelmed with confusion, attachment, fears, frustration, sadness, and other painful emotions. And another purpose of chapter 1 is to illustrate that our journey, or the journey of a living entity in the form of a human body, right, starts with acknowledging our weaknesses, first of all, because without acknowledging our weaknesses, we will not be looking for the absolute truth. Okay. And Bhagavad Gita is full of lessons, and those lessons are applicable to all areas of life. So, what are the lessons of life, right, which are presented in chapter 1? A life represents the moments of great responsibility where decisions carry heavy consequences. All of us are familiar with this, right? That sometimes responsibilities have very heavy consequences, but we still have to make those decisions. So, on the example, by showing the example how Arjuna is facing the situation, we can also see where we may encounter, the same similar situations, right? Where we think whether we have to take responsibility or no. And in crisis, clarity often disappears and emotions can cloud the duty. Is it familiar to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crisis can be of different levels, right? And why do you think in crisis clarity disappears? What is your thinking?
I think
Well,
because you get like during something dramatic happening, you get very emotional and then it's hard to see or think logistically because you're just overwhelmed.
exactly. Yes. And that overwhelming starts with fear. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And fear usually comes from attachment. So if we attach to something and we're expecting something, that expectation, if not fulfilled, results in fear and fear of a loss and etc. So, and that's how those emotions that come from that frustration can cloud our mind and, of course, the duty, right? The decision making, whether I have to do it or not. And the fourth lesson here is the chapter shows that challenges in life are opportunities for deeper understanding. And probably if you think back, any challenges that we have, right, without those challenges, we wouldn't be on the level where we are now. Because challenges on one side, they might be painful, but on the other side, without them, we wouldn't want to progress. Therefore, um, for example, in Vedic astrology, crisis is considered a transformation because without crisis, we feel comfortable. We don't want to go out of that comfort zone and change things in our life, right? So, chapter 1 clearly shows how crisis can show the challenges, right? How the challenges can become life opportunities and how those life opportunities open up the path for deeper understanding. And then lessons for relationships also in chapter 1, because Arjuna is, um, in order to perform his duty, he needs to fight with his family members. And it's a very, very big relationship concern, right? So Arjuna sees relative, teachers, and friends on both sides of the battlefield. Imagine it's very difficult, right? And those relatives, friends, and teachers are people whom he loves. So his attachment and love for family create inner conflict. He doesn't want victory at the cost of destroying loved ones. And this is also understandable.
Hmm.
So what is the lesson here? In relationships, attachment without wisdom can paralyze action. Do you agree with that?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't put wisdom, if we don't like if we get attached without thinking about the consequences later on, we might not be able to act. Okay, so true love should align with higher values, not just emotions. And there are a lot of examples where people sacrifice for something which is not worthy, not um, something that doesn't take them to the high level of self realization or self development. So, chapter one gives us that lesson as well. Lesson for spiritual growth. Arjuna's despair is the starting point for spiritual growth. And in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that there are four kinds of people come to the spiritual knowledge: those who are in distress, those who are in need, those who are curious, and those who are intelligent, who are looking for the absolute truth, right? So, this is another example how a difficulty can turn out into a spiritual opportunity. And that spiritual growth starts with admission. I don't know what to do. And that opens the door for guidance. In other words, we call it surrender, right? If we surrender to the Lord, we say, oh, dear Lord, I don't know what to do. I tried this and this and this. Please guide me. And then spiritual evolution begins when we stop relying only on ego. How do you understand ego? What is ego? How do you know that we are relying on ego? What is our ego?
Our ego is like the part of us that doesn't want to accept weaknesses and kind of thinks like we could do everything.
Yes, so we have two types of ego, right? Our true ego, ourselves, is our spirit soul.
Mhm.
And if we act out of that true ego, we are already Krishna conscious. The problem is we don't realize our true ego because because of the false ego, which was created due to the modes of material nature. And because of the false ego, we think I'm the doer, I'm independent, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. Everything belongs to me. While in reality, everything is different. Everything belongs to the Lord. The Lord is the enjoyer. The Lord is the controller. And if we serve the Lord, we're enjoying with Him. If we satisfy His senses, our senses are automatically satisfied. If we surrender unto Him, He will do everything to protect us. He does it. Okay? So here, the spiritual evolution begins when we stop relying on our false ego. Okay, which says I am the doer, I'm the controller. Because what happens if I don't manage? Yeah, Arjuna shows it, right? I don't want to fight. I don't want to fulfill my duty. I'm frustrated, and etc. Right? And not only ego, but also intelligence, intellect, and turn towards higher wisdom. So this is spiritual evolution. In other words, spiritual evolution begins when we change our points of how to say our basis, right? The basis for material life is ego and our intelligence. The basis for spiritual growth is true ego, but we need to realize it, and our spiritual intelligence, which is connected with that true ego. And that's why we are studying the science of God. Now, lessons for the ego. Arjuna's warrior ego collapses. All of us have different types of ego. So, what is ego basically is based on the roles that we play. The person who is a manager will have an ego of a manager. The person who has a father, right, will have an ego of a child. The person who is a man or a woman will have an ego of a man and a woman. Okay. And if we say, I'm a woman, and somebody is saying, hey, can you please carry that heavy thing with right away, we may feel, ah, he doesn't respect me, right? because that ego suffers. How come? He doesn't see that I'm a woman? He's not supposed to ask me those things, right? Yeah. So Arjuna's warrior ego collapses. Okay. He puts down his bow and refuses to fight. He doesn't want to fight because he's in a collapse. And the first chapter shows that ego alone cannot sustain us in the face of deep moral and emotional dilemmas. This ego is just for survival in material world without Krishna. Okay? Because if we are in the spiritual consciousness, we're okay. We're totally fine. I'm not a man. I'm not a woman. I'm not big. I'm not small. I'm not good. I'm not bad. I'm a spirit soul. I'm blissful. I'm knowledgeable. I'm happy. I'm eternal. Okay. And I'm always protected. I'm part and parcel of the Lord. I'm child of God. This is the highest position. I don't need any higher position. I don't need to fight for it. I don't need to prove anything, right? But what we see in reality, in the material reality, it's the opposite. And now the third lesson for the ego is true strength that comes from surrender and openness to divine instructions. And we can see the difference, right? For example, Arjuna, he surrenders, but Duryodhana, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how Duryodhana is frustrated. He is in fear, and we'll be reading it in Bhagavad Gita, and we already started, right? From the first verses, we can see how Duryodhana is scared because he sees the signs of victory. He's not in surrender. And he doesn't understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead because, again, Krishna doesn't open himself to those who envy him. And we will, like Bhagavad Gita will tell about it later. Now, also, have chapter 1 teaches us about the habits. Arjuna's habitual identity as a warrior is shaken. Like, for example, if a person is a teacher, he will be looking, analyzing the situations from the teacher's perspective. If somebody is a doctor, he will be applying that vision. So we have a certain angle from which we see things, right? So Arjuna's habitual identity is how we identify ourselves. It's another part of ego, right? Our habits is shaken. He cannot simply rely on past patterns. It's already like it's a psychological thing. He cannot because the situation is very critical, I would say. Habits rooted in fear, avoidance, or attachment must be examined. Do you agree with that? That if a certain habit is rooted in fear,
Yeah.
avoidance, or attachment. So, for example, instead of giving a presentation, right, in a class, the person may say, I'm shy and it's a habit, and I don't want to do anything about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there are multiple habits that are rooted in fear, avoidance, or attachment. And those habits, they need to be examined to
Mm-hmm.
grow, to allow growth. So, chapter 1 also teaches this. And this pause is essential before building new karmic habits aligned with higher truth. In other words, we need to accept, understand without any criticism all of the habits which are based, like which are rooted in fear and avoidance and attachment, so that we can build new karmic habits. Same thing if the person is sick, if he doesn't admit, he won't look for remedy, right? For cure. He has to admit it first. Oh, I need treatment. I'm sick.
Yeah.
Same thing with habits. Now, emotions. Arjuna is overwhelmed by grief, compassion, attachment, and fear. His body reacts with trembling, sweating, loss of strength. Okay? And Gita shows that emotions are natural, but when they dominate, they prevent us from fulfilling our purpose. And we can see it in chapter 1, right? When Arjuna doesn't want to fulfill his duty because of the emotions. Is it applicable to our life?
It could be.
It could be, yeah, when something seems very difficult, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So emotions may come out and just say, don't do this. Or they may say, you will fail, right? Or something like that. And the lesson here that spiritual practice helps to transform emotions from weakness into compassion guided by wisdom. because compassion starts with ourselves. We cannot be compassionate to others if we are not compassionate towards ourselves. Okay? And the key takeaway for life, chapter 1 is not a teaching chapter, but a mirror of the human condition. So, chapter 1 summarizes in which condition is the human society. It's confusion, attachment, fear at the beginning of the path. And to grow spiritually, we must face and acknowledge our inner struggles and seek higher guidance to move beyond them. Now, some questions for reflection. And the answer can be anything which comes to your mind. What can happen inside you, inside when you stand at a crossroad and don't know which way to go? It's a very simple question, right?
Hmm.
But what can happen internally? What do you think?
I think you start to have confusion within yourself. First, you get confused, and then you start maybe fearing what you could miss if you go down another crossroad, or you could fear what's coming for the direction you chose.
Exactly. Can we call it the fear of unknown?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the fear of unknown. So Arjuna is in that situation, and chapter first is teaching us that this is the fear that we may deal with in life and how to get out of it. Okay. Okay. Who can read the second question?
Um, how do your closest relationships how do your closest relationships may influence the choices you make? I think because it's in a like you have an attachment to your close relationship, so you'll make decisions that align with like maybe their values or what I don't know what benefits I don't know what benefits you and your relationship with others too.
Exactly. And see how it is opened up by the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna has very deep relationships, right? It's about his family
Mhm.
and how it's difficult for him to make the choice towards his duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Third question.
When have your emotions felt stronger than your values or goals?
Like any example, right? When have your emotions felt stronger than your values or goals?
I feel like when you're like for me, it's like when I'm frustrated. So like if like I don't know,
Hmm.
let's say okay, something doesn't go the way I wanted, or like I didn't do as good as I wanted, let's say on a test, and then I feel frustrated, then I'm like, then you feel like overwhelmed and you want to give up, and you're not really thinking about the bigger picture and like what you're trying to do and your goals.
Yeah. So emotions can be stronger than values or goals, right?
Mhm.
Or another example can be expectations.
Yeah,
When we expect something and something else happens,
yeah.
right? Then the focus can be more on the emotion rather than values and goals. Okay. Fourth question.
In what ways do you hold on to roles or identities that no longer serve you?
In what ways? Just give an example in what ways people in general can hold.
Maybe if you have like a friendship that you guys both really don't feel any connection anymore, but you still serve as acting like their friend just because you want to avoid conflict or you want to avoid confrontation.
Yeah, and give an example from Bhagavad Gita, like chapter one. What is the example that Arjuna shows about the roles or identities that no longer serve, but he wants to hold on to them?
Maybe the attachment he had with all the loved ones, he wasn't ready to let go, which is why he backed out of fighting.
Yeah, and being a brother, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
To someone who is a big offender, for example, let's hold on to this role and just go to the forest and meditate and just let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and play the role of a brother and etc.
Mhm.
Yeah, despite the fact that his wife was offended publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, harassed actually, not offended. She was harassed. Yeah, or yeah. So this is the example, or another example, if you know from Mahabharata. is the role where Karna, you know Karna, is a friendship between Karna and Duryodhana. Karna is the first son of Kunti, mother of the Pandavas, right? But she left him because she was not married when she was blessed with a child,
Mhm.
and she decided to leave the child. She didn't say anything to anyone. And Karna was raised by a family from just simple people, not from king dynasty. And but he had that potential, of course, because he's a son of demigod. Therefore, when he grew up, he wanted to be accepted. He wanted to be admitted as a great warrior, equal to like Pandavas.
Yeah.
And he didn't like he was not able to get it. So Duryodhana noticed that weakness in him, that he's frustrated and he's so much attached to that role. And so he made him a king right away. And that's how Karna, who was one of the best warriors, and he was equal to Arjuna in his strength, right, started serving Duryodhana. So he was holding on to this role. Duryodhana was not, um, like, it was not a true friendship.
Mhm.
Okay. Duryodhana was using him. So that's another, example is from Mahabharata. Okay. So now next question, who would like to read?
What habits keep you in your comfort zone, and which ones help you grow?
I think that habits that you do in fear are the ones that keep you in your comfort zone. So, like an example, like I just learned how to drive, and if I keep taking like the little roads because that's where I feel comfortable versus going on bigger roads with more intersections and challenges, that would help me grow versus just staying in my comfort zone and avoiding it.
Mhm.
Yes. Or some people are afraid of highways, right? And they also
Yeah.
just grow on the roads with traffic lights.
Yeah.
Although it takes so much time. Right. And which habits help us grow?
I would say like trying new things,
Hmm.
or like when challenges arise, like confronting them, and like not like
Like, for example, what kind of habit would that be? Like maybe it's a habit of taking responsibility, or maybe it's a habit of being determined
Yeah.
despite the fear. Like I may have the fear, but I'm determined. I would like to do it. I see
Yeah.
the value, right? It serves the
Yeah.
goal, something like that, right? Determination, responsibility, discipline is another habit. Without
Yeah.
discipline, we cannot grow at all. We will be trying to sit in the comfort zone all the time, right? How is it
Mhm.
applicable to chapter one, to Arjuna's situation?
Mm,
What is his comfort zone?
not being in the conflict.
Not being in a conflict, yes, not fighting because these are the like relatives, and he has very good justifications,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So, and which ones would help him to grow? What is the habit that would be helpful that Arjuna actually shows at the end, right?
Like
Like
determination.
yeah, maybe
Dharma, yeah, sticking to the duty, doing
yeah,
what you have to do. So sometimes what we have to do is not doesn't give us any pleasure.
yeah,
Mhm.
Waking up in the morning, go to the university,
yeah.
like studying for exams. Now, right? Yes. So, but these things they give good results. So those
Yeah.
habits of discipline, determination, responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Um, how do you usually navigate overwhelming emotions in important moments?
Hmm.
I know for me, it always helps me to be able to talk to someone because then I get to get another perspective and I get to share my feelings and they can help validate what I'm saying, or if they need to guide me in a different direction, they would.
Hmm. Yes. Wonderful. What could be the other ways?
I feel like some people cry, like let out
Yeah. Sometimes crying also work.
feel
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Being sincere, being open, right?
Yeah.
Not putting on any masks or pretend. I'm someone else that I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And how is it applicable to the situation in chapter 1? What does Arjuna do? Does he play like, oh, I'm strong? I'm
Wasn't he like he was like talking about like he was saying like he can't go through with it.
exactly, yes. So he was not pretending a
Mm-hmm.
Superman, right?
Yeah.
He was open, sincere, and imagine for a person with that strength and that power to admit it publicly in the battlefield. It's a huge strength, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so he admitted like in important moments, sometimes when we are with people to whom we can open up, that would be probably a good thing to overcome overwhelming emotions, right? All right, and the last question.
Where do you turn when you feel lost, and how does that shape your path forward?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the obvious one of the big answers would be God. You
Mm-hmm.
turn to God and Krishna and pray, and then that would help you remember your purpose and maybe seek some comfort from knowing that somebody's there with you.
Yeah. And since we are learning Bhagavad Gita as it is for daily life, how to apply this knowledge in a daily life, what could be other practical examples where would people probably turn when they feel lost?
I would say like reaching out to people and like sometimes it helps to know like other people are going through the same thing and there's some reassurance in that like
Mm-hmm.
you're not alone and then you can relate to others and maybe feel better about yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Or another example would be, for example, of a child, right? If it's a child, whom he will talk to when the child is lost.
Their parents.
Yeah, so he will turn to the parent, right? Or,
Yeah.
for example, a student will turn to a teacher, right? Or a person who is sick will turn to a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is practical, right?
Yeah.
But then teacher, doctor, parent, all these are instruments of God. This is all representatives of Krishna,
Yeah.
okay? Because Krishna is acting through them.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna gives doctors, Krishna gives teachers, Krishna gives knowledge, Krishna gives parents. Some people didn't deserve parents, he doesn't give them parents. Some people deserve parents of a certain nature, he gives them those parents, but behind all of this is Krishna. So if we want to receive mercy, we need to understand that behind every person in our life is Krishna. And if we serve the Lord, we will receive mercy from the Lord through those people. A wife, for example, is looking for love from her husband, and she's trying her best to serve her husband. Why is it that she might not receive love from her husband? It's possible when she doesn't see God behind him and she doesn't serve God. Okay, if she sees that, okay, my husband is an instrument of God, and I'm serving God by, for example, cooking for my husband, by, I don't know, talking to my husband, right? If she finds some time for Maha Mantra, right, it's a personal conversation with God. If she finds some time for reading scriptures, going to the temple, right, what starts happening? Krishna starts passing his like passing more love towards her, and the simple reactions or like in the form of again difficulties in life, right, might be might become less and less. So this is the mercy. Yeah, so here I would reflect that whomever you turn to, right, see the Lord behind that person, serve the Lord, and then you will receive the mercy from all of the people around you because they are the instruments of the Lord. And there are so many examples. There could be a quarrel that lasted for several years between the family members, and then one of the family members starts serving, like doing devotional service. And suddenly the other family member was so frustrated and didn't want to talk. Suddenly he says, "What can I do for you? Let's stop fighting." Can you imagine? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So such things happen. It's a miracle for us, but if we know the signs, we understand how it works. Okay. And what happens? How does that shape your path forward? What is the final destination? If we continue grow in that consciousness, you know? So what is the final? What would be what will shape like how our path would be shaped in that case?
Like happiness.
More opportunities,
Mhm.
happiness, right? Less attachments,
Mm-hmm.
easy to perform, like more time, because Krishna says, "I am the time."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Krishna's mercy comes in the form. It's easy to wake up, for example, in the morning, early in the morning. It's Krishna's mercy. It's easy to chant Mahamantra. It's Krishna's mercy. Everyone started loving you. It's Krishna's mercy. Imagine life like that. Yeah, and finally, we reach our final destination. We are going back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. All right. So, do you have any questions or reflections here?
I think one thing that, you know how you talked a lot about like attachment to people in this world and materialistic things, and I think that's all very common. How would you like avoid that?
Materialistic things?
Yeah, or even just people in general, like getting too attached.
Um, your question is how to avoid excessive attachment to materialistic people. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wherever your attention goes, the energy flows. So if you keep thinking on how to detach, your attachment will grow because this is what you're meditating on, right? But if you meditate on how I can serve better, basically what happens, you're giving so much attention to the things that serve your goal. So that attachment will become weaker and weaker and weaker. And not because you cut it, as like put yourself on a diet, right? I'm not eating, I'm not drinking milk anymore. No, not like this. You're just focusing on something else so much
Mhm.
that, and you grow in that area, that something that doesn't serve you becomes less and less important. I would say don't focus on attachment, focus more on your goals. Yeah. And that attachment will become very weak and then it will disappear. Okay. Good question. Thank you so much for asking. Any other questions or reflections?
It was interesting to hear about like the egos and like the different forms. Like how you said, if you're a doctor, your ego's in the form of a doctor, and you see
Mm-hmm.
things and like feel things through that perspective. That was
Yes. Yes. So yeah, we have different kinds of egos. Basically, um, every role is based on our ego. Yeah, we have multiple roles. It means that we have multiple sides of our ego. Yeah, if the ego is broken, we cannot play that role anymore.
Mhm.
And this is actually the basis for the psychological trauma. For example, if there is a child trauma, right, the person is blocked from the behavior that is applicable for a child. And child behavior is what? Being creative, trust, right? Being open, building close relationships. So this is about the child, right? If the person was, for example, if someone's ego in the age of a teenager was broken, right? Something happened and that ego suffered, then the person will be blocked again from the opportunities and from reactions that are applicable to that age. So Bhagavad Gita gives us the highest level of psychology. Yeah. And then psychology actually is rooted, in that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that reflection. Anything else? Any other questions or reflections? Okay. Okay, wonderful. Let's just stop sharing this. Perfect.